Welcome to Dog on the Plot. I'm Kerry, this is Dory, and we're on the plot with a list of jobs to do. I've got my to-do list for this week, and actually I've already started on the to-do list. So again, I was up early this Saturday morning, gardener's world on, sowing away, and I got through most of the seeds that I should have sown by now. So I'm really pleased to be back on track with my seed sowing. So that's number 8 on the list that I can tick off, and I've come down to the plot mostly because I need a tool that's here. I need to take that home for one of the jobs, project really, that I want to do in the home garden. But while I'm here, I thought I'd get another job done, which is plant out the rest of the broad beans. Now, if you remember, I put out quite a few broad beans. I dotted them around the different beds on the plot, but I kept some back just in case the frost got these, but they've been absolutely fine. They're looking great. So I'm going to get the rest of the broad beans in now. And oh my goodness, do these need to go in? I mean, this is one of the things that's a drawback about sowing in cells. You get to protect them, but they do get awfully leggy. In comparison to these ones that Mark sowed direct in the autumn, and they're looking absolutely fantastic. Nice little stocky plants, which is what you want really. But this is what I'm working with. It is what it is, but they really need to get in the ground. Now, the first thing I'm going to need to do is weed this bed a little bit. This it's not too hard to do because we did have rain last night, so the soil is fairly workable. That's the first rain we've had in a while though, and actually, yeah, it's still fairly dry, so it wasn't an awful lot. But we did have the most glorious start to spring. So spring was on Thursday, and I was in work on Thursday, but I wanted to come down to open the greenhouses. The broad beans were in the greenhouse. It would have got far too hot for them. So I popped down and water in the polytunnel, just the stuff that I'd newly sown, so the coriander and the radish. And then when I was in the polytunnel, of course, there was all those buckets of brassicas and chard that I'd been storing in there that had been moved from the old plot. So I started taking those out and I lined them all up by the fruit tree guild, gave them all a really good water, and now it's rained, so they've had a little bit more water. And actually they're not looking too bad. And in fact, I think I might have a couple of purple sprouting broccolis in there that might produce some actual florets. So that's quite exciting. But honestly, it was so difficult to leave. It was beautiful sunshine. It was so quiet because it was really early in the morning. And yeah, I could have easily called in sick and spent the whole day on the plot. But I'm a very responsible person and I didn't do that. So I had to leave and I went to work, and it's a bit of a shame to come here today and the weather not be nearly as good, but oh well, them's the breaks. But it was a lovely start to the spring, and certainly the weeds, I would say, have noticed that we are now officially in spring and they are starting to make their presence known. But this patch is now clear, so let's get some of these broad beans in. Okay, the roots look nice on them, even if they do look a little bit leggy. So I'm going to do what I did before and plant 5 in a grid, and keep dotting these around the plot. So as I said before, this is part of producing the polyculture that I want on the plot, but also because broad beans are a nitrogen fixer, when I cut these down after they've finished fruiting, you'll be leaving those roots in the ground, and they'll be feeding then, instead of just one bed on the plot, they'll be providing nitrogen to spots all around the allotment. That's the idea anyway. So I've got my last few broad beans, and what I thought I'd do with them is put them into the Jerusalem artichoke bed, because I did that in rows, so I can fit 2 rows between the tubers. I'm going to hope that I don't pierce the tubers as I'm putting these in. But it's another way to utilise space. Got 2 crops in one bed, and also these will provide nitrogen to the soil when they eventually come out, and I could even chop and drop the foliage as well into this bed. Right, so I think I've got 7. Yes, 7 plants left. So if we put one, oh, that's a small one. Oh dear, sometimes, even though these have been well watered, they can be hard to pop out of these cells. There's one. So 4 there, 3 at the front. I've got 4 more plants of the crimson broadbeans that I did in the toilet rolls in the home garden. Unfortunately, only 4 of those came up, and I think, or better do the far ones first, I think they rotted. It was just a little bit too cold and damp in the greenhouse for them. I'd probably overwatered as well, and yeah, only 4 made it. I had the same situation with the peas. They all rotted in the trays, which was really disappointing because they were going to be my early crop of peas. I'm not going to have that now, but I am going to do my next sowing of peas, hopefully today. It's on the list. There we go. That is 37 broad bean plants on the allotment. I've got 4 crimson flowered for the home garden. And you know what? I think that's probably enough broad beans for me. So I have got some different varieties, some of which were sent to me and I'm very grateful for, but I think I'm probably done for broad beans this year. So I'll be saving that seed for next year. Good. All right, let's go tick that off. All right, plant broad beans. Done. Now this empty tray is going to be useful for another thing on my list, but that's not the thing that I was coming down here for. It is the broadfork, of course. Now, I need the broadfork for a project in the home garden, but before I take it away from the plot, and this wasn't on my list, this always happens, doesn't it? I think I might broadfork where the brassicas were, where I've taken them out, ready to put some raised beds in. I think it's probably best to do that at this point, rather than having to lug this back down next week. So, okay, adding a job to the list. Now, it's a good time to do this because we have had the rain, but I do need to be careful because I've got my Camassia bulbs dotted around, and then I've got these brassicas left, and these are the ones that I think are the perennials, and it would be nice to keep that Taunton kale alive, even though I've got a load more propagated. So I may just broadfork round these while I decide what I'm going to do with them. Yeah, I think that's the best plan. So if you're new to the channel and you're like, what's this broadfork thing? It's essentially a massive fork that you use rather than to dig over the soil. You use it like this, and push it down in, and use it just to lift and then replace. It's to help aeration and avoid compaction when you're trying to do no dig or minimal disturbance gardening, and I love it. I really do feel that this is a great piece of kit. It's particularly good for clay soils like this one as well, which do tend to get compacted. Now, it's always good when you do an extra job to add it to the list. Broadfork brassica bed. So you can cross it off. Very satisfying. Okay, so everything else is home garden jobs. So we'll have a slurp of tea, eat my little biscuits, maybe take you for a walk, Dory? Want to go for a walk? And then meet you back at the home garden. Right, the dog is walked, I've had lunch, the broadfork is here, but I've just noticed this, and I'm going to do this before I do anything else, and it's, I hope, dig up a parsnip. So I thought I'd harvested all the parsnips from this bed, but then this started shooting again. In fact, there's a shoot there, but I think that might be something else that I'm going to mention in a minute. Right, let's get this. Yeah, there's another one. Okay, I'll come to that. Right, come on, parsnip. Let's see what we've got. Right, push down and then up. It's never as easy as that. This is quite deep, actually. I guess it doesn't matter if I fork it, because we'll have it for Sunday dinner. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there we go. Oh, not bad. Oh, not bad at all. As a little surprise. Ah, there's another one. Okay, what am I talking about here? So it seems, and I do now vaguely remember, in a fit of enthusiasm, I sowed field beans all over the place, all over this garden, as like a green manure. Now, there are definitely some in this bed. I can see them coming up. It doesn't matter, that bed isn't destined for anything just yet, so they can continue growing and they'll act as a cover crop. I'll chop and drop them and they'll add their goodness to this bed. However, I've also, oh my goodness, there's loads of them. I can see them everywhere now. They're also popping up in this bed, which is the bed that I brought the broadfork down to broadfork and put the blueberries in. And I'm now having second thoughts, because it'd be a really good thing to have the field beans come up and feed this bed. That might change my plans for today. Well, the first thing I'll do is take these back off of the bed so that they're not sat on top of, yeah, I can see there, sat on top of the field beans. Right, so you lot can come over here. So yeah, so do you remember I said that I was going to have this as my blueberry and dahlia bed? Well, that's what was my little project that I was thinking I would start today. And I've got some ericaceous soil, so I thought I'd broadfork the bed, put the ericaceous soil on, and then dig in and put the blueberries in. But I'm definitely now having second thoughts about it. So I think I'll wait a bit. They're growing really fast now. Yeah. Right, I am going to make some progress with this bed, but not actually in the bed. All will be revealed soon. I'm going to move on to something else on the list, which is right over there. Now, this is another job that I realised I had to do because of watching Gardeners World while sowing my seeds in the morning, and it's prune down the buddleia. So this buddleia in the past has been pretty hard to prune because the stems are really thick. It's very tall buddleia. You can be really harsh with buddleias, and that's what I intend to do today, and I should be able to do it quite easily because now I have the electric pruners. Now this does up to 50 millimeters, which is kind of hard to judge, but if it gets in the jaws, I guess it can do it. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Yep, it did it. This one. Right. Any other big ones? Can I get that any closer? Yeah, very good. Oh, that one. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's got the ivy all stuck to it. Well, that's made a huge difference. Now that will all come back. So all of this will shoot, but what it will mean is the flowers are here rather than up in the sky there. So that's great. And that made such light work of that job. Usually that takes way longer than that. Right, this material. Now I could put it in the dead hedge, but I might just keep it to one side for a minute because these buddleia sticks actually made really good pea sticks before. So yeah, so I might cover them. The foliage will just die off and crumble off, but the sticks themselves will stay quite strong. Yeah, and they worked well for pea sticks last year. Right, let's clear that along then. that's the buddleia pruned, and that leaves me with just a couple jobs left. One of which is this, and this is the preparation for what will be the blueberry and dahlia and cutting flower bed, and that is to start potting up my dahlias. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you'll know why I have a whole bunch of sandwich bags here, and that's because I like to pot up my dahlias in sandwich bags. It's a massive space saver, it's very efficient, and I'm going to show you right now how I do it. Now, all my dahlias from last year, I left in the beds, I mulched. I've been since just keeping my fingers crossed that in a few weeks' time they will emerge and they'll be okay, and I can hopefully try and protect them from slugs. In the meantime, I have been treating myself to various new varieties of dahlias, and in fact, Farmer Gracie has treated me to these collarette dahlias, and I think collarette are one of my favourite, in particular one that's in this mix that's called night butterfly, so I'm really excited. I did try and grow it a couple of years ago, but the slugs got it, and that's the thing with dahlias, is the slugs. But I'm going to really try and protect my dahlias this year. So thank you to Farmer Gracie for sending those, and if you're interested in getting any bulbs from Farmer Gracie, then I have a 10% discount code in the description below. Let's get these potted up. Now, regular viewers will have seen me do this before, so don't worry, we'll get to the vegetables again very quickly. But for those of you new to the channel, I'll just show you what it is that I do with my dahlias. Oh, that's a nice looking tuber. So there should be 3 in here, one of each variety. We've got a loose tuber there. That's no good. That will do nothing. There's no eye on it. So that can go straight into the compost bin. Right, there's my next one. Yeah, that looks nice. Everything's firm. Okay. And then the third one. So they've got a few loose ones. Yeah, so they're no good. But everything else on there looks fine. That's just holding on, so I might take that one off. There we go. But yeah, everything else nice and firm. Right, so take your bag. Label it. So these are the collarette. There we go. And you just want to fill the bottom of your plastic bag with some compost. I've just got some peat-free multi-purpose compost here, nothing extra in it. Okay, so a little bit in the bottom there, and then you can pop your dahlia in. And then you just want to add some more compost so that you're covering up the majority of the tuber, but you just want it sitting proud of the soil so you can see the stalk and just the tops of the tubers. So you could water it at this point, but only water it a real scant amount. The last thing you want to do is make this too wet and the tuber will rot. Now, this compost has got quite a bit of moisture in it, so I think that's absolutely fine for starting these off. So I'm just going to seal the bag, but leave a little gap in the middle there so there is some airflow, but you are creating some humidity within the little bag. And that's one of the advantages of using the bag, is that humidity. And the other advantage is the space saving. So if I pop this into my mushroom tray now, along with the 2 other collarettes that I've just done, there we go. Look at what a space saver that is compared to if you did them in pots, say that size, and you had all of them in these pots. The other great thing is that you get to see the root formation, and so you know your dahlia is alive. So yeah, right, I've got another, I don't know, 15 of these to do probably. So I'm going to get on with those, and then I'll come back to you for more vegetables. Right, that's all the dahlias potted up. That's a good job. I feel like there's like room in the mushroom tray for at least 2 more dahlias. So if we maybe add some more on later. But these will now go inside. They need to be in the light, in the warm. So I'm going to put them in the window. And once they start sprouting, I can bring them out into the greenhouse, and I can start taking cuttings as well, which I took a lot of cuttings last year, and then the slugs ate most of them, and I didn't lift them and I didn't mulch them. So that was a lot of work for probably no reward. So I'll see about doing the cuttings this year. I know I want to take some from Totally Tangerine because my friend Kristen wants some of those. Right, from one tuber to another tuber, I said we were moving back onto vegetables. Can you guess? Potatoes. Now in theory, this should be easy. I've got my potatoes and I want to grow them in buckets, and I've got my buckets because I only recently harvested the first earlies that I grew last year. So those pieces are all in place. But compost, I wanted to use some of my homemade compost, and that is more difficult. Now, part of me is ashamed to show you this, but another part says, you know, we all have these messy areas in the garden, and I'm pretty bad with compost. Like, I collect all the materials, but actually putting the materials into the bays, I'm less good at. Now, this is the one that I'm currently using. This is the one that's ready, but I can't actually get to it until I put all of this in here or just move it away. And if I'm going to move it away, I may as well move it into the bays. So that's my first job, and I always know that this ends up being a huge job, and it wasn't on the list, but I'm going to do it, and I'll feel better once I have. I'm not sure that this looks masses better, but it's an hour and a half later and a lot of ripped up cardboard, and you wouldn't think ripping up cardboard would feel like an intense workout, but oh my god, my arms. Anyway, this is pretty full now. I've just poured a load of rainwater on. I'm tired. Rainwater on that I have been collecting, so that might help it to start rotting down. But that is a lot of brown material to go in all at once. But I think the church will be doing their mow early next week, so I can put the grass clippings on once that comes. But then I think really this probably needs turning into here, and this one emptying therefore. So, but hang on a minute, look what's in here. So as well as the weeds that you would kind of expect, all of these spring bulbs are coming up. So these are crocuses. There's a tulip over there and a couple more at the back there, I think. So that's quite funny that they've been growing in here. So I think what I might do before I start taking this out for the potatoes is try and get those bulbs out. Let's see if they come out easily. Excuse me, Dory. Thank you. Right. I just lift those up. There we go. So maybe I can replant those and see if we can get them to flower. There's lots of worms in here. Look how good this compost is though. I mean, there's still a few woody bits in there, but wow. I think this might be the best compost I've ever made. That's really nice. Right, let's get it in some buckets. It's gone really, really dark. It's not nighttime, it's about to rain, I think. Go on, get down there. Stop flicking me in the face. So I filled these buckets up by a third, and I'm going to pop 3 potatoes in each of these buckets. Are these 40 litre? I forget. They're quite big buckets. So this is Ulster Prince. They've got some really good chits on. In fact, all of them have got pretty good chits, except Pentland Javelin. That's not got that many chits on, but it doesn't really matter. You don't have to chip potatoes. So each of the potatoes goes in with the chits facing upwards like that. That's perfect. And then that'll get covered in soil, and then, well, I'll just cover it in soil and then I'll earth it up when they start to sprout. That one then is Ulster Prince, so I need to do a label. In fact, what worked really well with the ones on the plot last year was writing it onto the tub. So, Ulster Prince. And today is the 22nd of the 3rd. Okay, so that's one. And then we've got Rocket. Never done Rocket before. I've not done any of these first early varieties before, with the exception of Pentland Javelin, but I did that as Christmas potato and they got blight and I lost them. So I have not tried any of these potatoes. Just before I cover these potatoes up, there's something else that I found in the compost heap, and I am not sure what this is. What do you think that is? It's alive, whatever it is. So I'm thinking I will pot it up and see what happens. But if you have any idea what that is, let me know in the comments. Okay. First earlies in buckets, done. And as the heavens about to open, I am happy with what I've achieved on my to-do list. There's one thing left on there, but we will be doing that next week. And it's a shame about the blueberry bed, but it's an upcoming project and all the more goodness in the bed because of those field beans. Thank you for spending time with me this weekend, and I hope to see you next week.